Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking open the science of yes. You know, those hidden psychological forces that guide our decisions, a lot of times without us even realizing it.
I mean, just think about this for a second. How on earth did a company like Airbnb convince millions of us that sleeping in a total stranger's home was a perfectly normal, even safe idea? Just a few decades ago, that would have sounded crazy.
So what was the secret sauce? Well, it wasn't some flashy new technology. It was all about understanding a really powerful psychological trigger that kicks in whenever we're feeling unsure about something. It's the same force that tells us what to do when we just don't know what to do.
Yeah, what Airbnb tapped into isn't some kind of magic. It's straight-up proven science. It's the science of influence, a field really shaped by the incredible work of Dr. Robert Cialdini. So today, we're going to dive into 3 of his most powerful principles to really see the hidden architecture behind why we say yes.
Here's the plan. We'll start with the principle that basically made Airbnb possible. Then, we're going to explore 2 principles that are all about forging powerful human connections. And finally, we'll wrap up by tackling the big one. How do we use all this knowledge for good? All right, let's jump right into this first principle. It gets right to the heart of that whole Airbnb thing we were talking about. It's called social proof. Basically, social proof is a mental shortcut. When we find ourselves in a new situation and we're not sure how to act, what do? We look around. We see what everyone else is doing. It's this deeply wired instinct that tells us, hey, when in doubt, just follow the crowd. And this isn't just some casual habit. It's a huge driver of our behavior. As marketing expert Angie Schottmuller says, it's our brain's way of outsourcing the tough work of making a decision. You know, if hundreds of people left 5-star reviews for that Airbnb, our brain just goes, it's probably fine. Okay, let's shift gears to our next principle. This one is all about the undeniable power of just liking someone. It's called the liking principle, and trust me, it's a lot more scientific than it sounds. So here's the crucial thing to understand. This isn't just about being charming or super friendly. Cialdini actually pinpointed a specific framework of psychological drivers that systematically build that feeling of rapport and trust. Let's quickly break down 3 of the most powerful drivers behind this liking principle. We've got similarity, praise, and cooperation. First up is similarity. Our brains are just hardwired to trust people who seem like they're part of our tribe. A perfect example of this was the old online store ThinkGeek. Their whole website was packed with inside jokes and nerdy references that were constantly sending a signal to their audience, hey, we get you, we are one of you. And that feeling of being understood, it created an incredibly loyal community. Next is praise. And what's wild about this one is how powerful it is, almost irrationally so. Get this, studies have found that people have the highest regard for someone who flattered them, even when they knew the flattery was totally fake. That warm, fuzzy feeling you get from a compliment gets directly connected to the person who gave it. And finally, there's cooperation. When we have to work together to achieve something, we can't help but build bonds. Heineken's Worlds Apart experiment showed this so well. They took people with completely opposite worldviews, like polar opposites on big issues, and just had them build some furniture together. And that simple act of cooperating created such a strong connection that even after their huge differences were revealed, they chose to sit down and talk it out. And the impact of this in the real world is staggering. Research on those classic Tupperware parties found something amazing. People's fondness for the hostess was twice as influential in their decision to buy as what they actually thought of the products. It just proves we don't just buy things. A lot of the time, we buy things to support people we like. All right, now for our final principle. This is one Cialdini actually introduced decades after his original work. It's called unity, and it takes this whole idea of connection to a much, much deeper, almost primal level. Now, this slide is super important because it highlights the key difference. Liking is about surface-level stuff. It says, you are like me. We both love the same movies. But unity goes deeper. It says, you are of me. We're part of the same family, the same team, the same community. It's that feeling of we. Cialdini himself explains this perfectly. There was a study where a student asking for donations became way more successful just by adding one little phrase to her request. I'm a student here too. See? She wasn't just like them, she was one of them. That shared identity was the trigger. And this instinct is unbelievably fundamental. In one incredible study,
18-month-old babies, I mean babies, were 3 times more likely to help a researcher who dropped something, but only after they'd been shown pictures of people standing together, working together. It suggests this whole idea of us is just baked into our psychology right from the start.
So, okay, we've got these incredibly powerful psychological tools, which of course brings us to the most important question of all: how do we make sure we're using them for good?
Cialdini offers this really brilliant metaphor to draw a clear ethical line. The ethical influencer acts like a detective. They do the work to find real, genuine connections that already exist. The smuggler, on the other hand, just fakes it. They invent connections to get a quick win, but that always destroys trust in the long run.
So the big takeaway here is this: the goal should always be to find and shine a light on real connections. Ethical influence is not about manipulating people, it's about creating authentic resonance. It's really the only way to build lasting trust and genuine relationships.
Which leaves us with one final thought about what's truly possible with these principles. When we stop thinking about simple tactics and start focusing on real, ethical connection, something much bigger can happen.
Because anyone can follow a checklist of influence tactics and create a campaign. But if you want to build a loyal community, a passionate tribe, a real movement, that only comes from authenticity. Thanks so much for watching.